Hello, Professor. Myself, Divya Banalla. I'm here to present my final project on lightweight security primitives for e-commerce. So, generally, e-commerce stands for running the transactions electronically using the internet. So, here, lightweight security primitives can provide the security for the online transactions with the low cost, which runs around the low cost. So, even the research paper which is provided here revolves around the low cost transactions and provision of security here. This basically introduces a new framework in the security. So, coming into the first slide. So the paper here presents a lightweight application layer, which is really helpful in providing the secured and safer low-cost transactions in the extended client-server relationships. So this is a very customizable application in the practical applications. So here, this serves to be an advantage over the transport layer security, which provides the shared keys between the client and the servers. Um, so although this looks like an advantage here, there are also some limitations included in the research paper accordingly, and those limitations could be uh, this kind of transactions could not get the universal security based on the transport layer. Here we can see that transport layer security protocols like SSL and SHTTP will be requiring handshake and the key distribution for every transaction. So for each and every transaction which updates which are in the transport layer needs to be updated in the handshake, and they need to be there should be a key distribution for each and every transaction. So although this looks like an advantage, it is little complex for the low value transactions, and this is very expensive in the point of low value transactions. Other than this, this also cannot handle the client server extended client server relationships properly, because as it needs to every transaction needs to be updated in the transport layer after it is done. So for updating each and every transaction, it needs longer duration, which is not possible, and it is also computationally very expensive. So this we also have to store this data for every transactions, which is not possible because client can't be available every all the time. So it always requires the client to store data in it, and which does not provide that transparency and mobility. So in order to overcome this kind of problems or this kind of limitations, uh, the research paper introduced a new security framework which could give a solution, and that solution could include three basic points, which is a very advantage in this kind of system. Coming into the first solution, it provides using persistent shared keys between the clients and the servers. So it generally provides only a single key for the entire relationship, rather than providing new keys for the each transaction. So providing single key would be very helpful, because there need not be updated data for every all the time. So every transactions need not be given a each new key. Only a single key will be able to run the complete relationship between the client and the server per user. So this also helps in designing lightweight application layer, which basically is used for managing the shared keys. And this also provide a secured and safety transactions which are completely low cost and will not be having any expensive computations. So it also includes some advanced features like providing receipts and also the payment services for the user. We can also see that it is also helpful for providing customizable modular structure, which is providing the perfect security for the transactions. The low level transactions will be having the lower risk, and the solution also includes the customizable modular structure, which helps in providing the security based on the transaction value. Higher the transaction value, higher the security, and lower the transaction value, lower the security. So this serves as an advantage here by adjusting the security levels based on the risk and also the transaction value. This is also helpful in managing the cost and also the security trade-offs. Uh, Coming into the next slide, we can see that client side key generation. So as this new security framework will be helpful in differentiating the client side key generation and server side key generation. It also explains how this client side key is generated and managed, and even from the server side. So client side key generation is generated using the Janus function. Janus function is nothing but it is completely based on client ID, client secret, and the server ID. So this is computed by client proxy transparently. This also helps in providing the consistent keys where no client storage will be able to require. Like there is no storage for this. We cannot. There is no need to store this kind of data in the client side. Next, uh, coming into the next slide, this discusses about client side key management. We can see that in the client side, keys provides a persistent in the browsing sessions. As we already discussed, there is no need to require, like there is no need to need of storage in the client side. It provides proxy which can recompute the key after the each and every session, like after each and every transaction. And this provision of key is completely dependent on client ID, client secret, and the server ID. So this also helps in enabling the client, which helps in mobility between the machines, and this also uh, is used easily able to recompute the new keys. Next, coming into the server side key management. So as we have seen the client side key generation and key management, now we are going to see the server side key management. So here, server can store the client's shared key after the very first interaction. So here, even it need the server will be able to get the client ID preferences as given earlier, which is easily integrated with the existing server side records. So this is easily able to store the data provided by the client here, but it can only give the one public key operation per client for the initial storage. So this can be provided only for the initial storage, depending upon the security and the risk it is taking. So this is easily able to share the data between the client and also the server. This serves to be an advantage providing the data and the keys between client side and the server side. Next, coming into the next slide. So this serves to be a modular structure here, as we have already discussed. Depending on the transaction value, securities have been managed. Like the higher the transaction, higher the security provided, lower the transaction, lower the security provided here. It can also manage the cost depending on the risk. So this serves to be an advantage here. We can also see that it can provide the non-repudiation, which completely depends on the authentication of a user. If a user gives his authentication, then he can be able to handle his own transactions over the internet. He can also get the electronic receipts, which even do not need the key signatures and is completely authenticable. So, this kind of new security framework depends on the three protocols. So, one of the protocol includes simple key establishment protocol. As the name here suggests that it is a simple key establishment which just require the client ID and the shared key with the servers. So, this generally includes interaction with the shared key at the client and server public key, and it's the key which is generated at the client will be transmitted to the server, then it is decrypted and stored at the server. So this helps in interaction between the client and server, which is also the extended relationship. So as we can also see that non-repudiation variant possible using server signature. So using the server signature, we can also provide authenticated receipts to the user. Next, coming into the other protocol, which is nothing but simple data delivery protocol. As the name suggests, it can deliver the data very easily. So, if a client is requesting for the data, server needs to respond to it with the encryption and also the message authentication using the shared key. So, your shared key does not provide all the complete data. It also includes some security aspects, which is nothing but providing the data privacy and integrity. So here we cannot see any server authentication. So this is considered to be a simple data delivery protocol. Next, coming into the next slide, it discusses about extended data delivery protocol. So we also discussed about the extended client and server relationship here. This provides extra request response messages. Although there are many extra request responses from the client, server needs to respond to it each and every all the time in order to provide the data delivery successfully. It can also establish fresh session keys derived from the shared key. So after each and every session of the transaction, there is a fresh key generated, which also provides the mutual authentication between the client and the server every all the time after each transaction. This also protects against the service attacks like uh, denying of the transaction or denying of the uh, request from the client. So it is completely safe and secured. As discussed, this new framework, which is introduced in the research paper, serves to be a very good advantage in the point of low value transactions. So this also helps in avoiding key exposure. So after using session keys derived from the shared keys, there will be changing of values. So like this is one of the security point. Like it can ensure that previously compromised key will not be able to reuse. Even if the shared key is exposed, we will not be able to reuse the same key again. So there needs to be a change of values after each and every session, so that the transaction can be very secure and safety. Next, coming into generating receipts, we can see that as we discussed, receipts can be authenticated from the client and the server. So here, in order to generate the receipt, client needs to send a chain of ashes incrementally after each and every transaction, so that as per the transaction, we can provide the same receipt accordingly. So it can also prove the delivery of data from the server. After creating the ashes incrementally, it can also prove that there is a data delivery from the server, which helps in resolution if there are also some issues regarding these receipts or generating the receipts. Next, implementation. Coming into implementation, this is very easy to implement in the e-commerce. As we can see, nowadays there are many transactions are running around electronically using just the internet. So, in order to implement this kind of new security framework, which is having this many advantages, is easily used. Like we can test the client proxy and the server CGI scripts here. This can be cryptographically managed, and this also used to measure the cryptographic computation over it, which is the absolute and relative to baseline. Next, potential integration with SSL. So integration, as we have discussed, the implementation of this in the real practical applications. This is also integrated through the already their systems. Like it can easily combine to the uh, given systems. So here we can see that combined persistent key benefits. So it can be a very advantageous concept in providing the key that is the shared keys between the extended client and server relationships. It can also avoid SSL's client storage requirements. So there is no need to store the data here for each and every transactions. So we can just provide the key from the client to server and handle the data over there, and also provide the low value transactions. So this could also improve the adoption, and it is easily available and used in every all the applications. And next we are discussing the conclusion. Conclusion is nothing but the research paper completely focuses on this new security framework. The framework includes working with the low cost transactions and the mobility. As we have seen, there is a easy way in order to communicate between the client and the server. Although it looks like an advantage in the first introduction, but there are also some limitations discussed in the research paper. So the limitations could include the transport or session layer security, which cannot be very advantageous in order to provide the client and server relationship, and could not provide case for both in the client and server relationship. Uh, like because repeatedly needs authentication in order to provide the security for each and every transaction in SSL and its HTTP. It is not possible for those transportations layer, because each and every for after the each and every transaction it needs to update the transport layer or the transportation layer, which is not possible in the extended client server relationship using this SSL and his HTTP. And in order to overcome this, the research paper included this kind of a new security framework, which is having many advantages. And this could include three basic points, like providing the shared keys, and then designing the lightweight uh, security layer, and then also providing the modular structure which is suitable for the low cost transactions within the extended authentication in the client server relationship here. And here we can also see that major part of the research paper comes with the design and implementation of this lightweight application layer, which also includes in generating and maintaining the persistent shared keys without requiring clients to store the information between the each and every transaction. It can also be used only once per the transaction of the client after the first interaction. We also saw that after generating keys from the client side, the server side will be able to store it once uh, it is done with the first interaction. So the paper could present a strong motivation and initial design of customized lightweight primitive for extended low cost e-commerce transactions. So this could be a very good like in providing the e-commerce transactions without any extra computational cost or anything. This could serve as an advantage in order to provide the electronically driven transactions which only runs using the internet. And there is one more advantage, like the user can maintain and manage his own transactions over the internet. This also provides persistent shared keys, which can offer significant efficiency advantage over the traditional security protocols. So this new security framework which is introduced can be just combined with this traditional security options uh, without again rediscussing about it. We can just combine this kind of new security framework to the traditional framework which is already been introduced. This the research paper also provides a prototype implementation and integration with existing infrastructure remains as a future work. So this could be very advantageous using in the like a future real world applications. And it could be very helpful in providing the low cost transactions, in providing secure and safety within the client and server relationships without any data damaging or data loss or any kind of limitations using this. So this serves to be a very good advantage as per the research paper provided. And this is all about the topic. Thank you.